Hi guys, my name is Ankit and today we will continue discussing the forms. Okay, so yesterday we discussed like various form fields and then we discussed various input types. Okay, guys, today we will continue discussing various input types. So, the input types that we discussed is we are currently discussing is the input type tell. Okay, so if I just open the file input type tell. So basically input type tell is used to write the phone numbers. Okay. So if I just go there and you can see that there's a tell box. It's similar to text box, but it is kind of used to write the we can say that input type tell the telephone numbers. Okay. Next we have is input type text. The text is just for the simple text box. If we keep like input type text, then input type text is kind of used to write the alphabets, numbers, special characters, whatsoever we can write. Okay. Next is the input type time. So basically, if you remember from the previous video, input type date means it will open up a date picker. Input type date time local means it will open up a date picker as well as the time picker. Input type time means it will open the just the time picker. So if we keep up like input type time and we just select the time, we can just select the time. It just opens up a time picker. Okay. Next is the input type URL. Input type URL is used to write the URL. For example, https tutorials.com or any other URL. Okay. Next is the input type week. Week selects the whole week. For example, we want to select next week, so we can just go here and we can select next week. This is a week picker. It opens the week picker. We can select the week number with the year. Okay, so this was all about the input types. So now we have some input attributes. So there are like many input attributes. We will be discussing the ones that we use most commonly. Okay, so first one is value. So considering input type value, sorry, input type text. In this input type text, we can give up some value. So value will contain the text and the alphabets or anything that we want to give it by default. So as of now, if we see that the input type text is kind of blank, it is completely blank. So what we will do is we will give it some value that and this value will be loaded by default. For example, we can give it like default value. When we give default value, the value is loaded by default. So this is what it does. It just gives the default value. Next is the placeholder. What placeholder does is it just embeds some information. Like for example, if we just open the website of tutorleaks, you can see that there's a placeholder that says search for a course. If we just remove, if we just type something, then this placeholder goes. Otherwise, it is kind of embedded search for a course. So w- to place a placeholder, we can just give it a placeholder, and placeholder does nothing. It just embeds the code. Okay, so placeholder, we can say default embedded information. So we have some information that is embedded. If we just type something, it goes, and when we remove this, it comes back, just to show the information what exactly we need to kind of fill in the text box. Next is the name. Basically, the use of name is to write the, we can say, to give this text box a name. Okay, so backend can know that the text box with name this is sending me this data. So just to give it a name to the text box, we use the name. So let's suppose we keep it like my name. We can give it, we give this text box a name, my name, and then in the backend we can, then the backend can say that, okay, give me the detail from a text box by the field my name. Okay, so this is what it does. Then next comes the type. The type just defines the type. So it is a text, it is a number, it is a week picker, it's a date picker, it's a color, whatever type it is. There are like many types we have discussed till now. Next is the read only disabled. Okay, so basically, let's suppose we have a button. Okay, before that, read only. Let's suppose this text box, we just want that user should read what's in the here, and he cannot enter any data. So we can give it a read only, and we can add some default value read only value, and we can give it the attribute read only. Now we can't change anything. Guys, trust me, I'm typing. We can change anything. It's embedded. It's not embedded, but it's there, and we can change. But if we remove read only, then we can change the data. So this is what read only does. Next comes the attribute disabled. So let's suppose we have a button, my button. So we can click on this button. This button is right now clickable. But if we just give it an attribute called disabled, and you can see that this button is not clickable, and it just embedded, and it's not clickable. We can't click on a disabled button. So this is what disabled does. Next comes the step, min, and max. So let's suppose we have an input type number. We have an input type number. Okay, if you remember from the last video, I told that number have like two buttons. One is the step up button, and one is the step down button. But if you see this, that it is just stepping up by one step. It becomes 1, it becomes 2, it becomes 3, it becomes 4. So it is just stepping up by 1, and similarly it is stepping down by 1. What we want is that it should take 3 steps rather than one single step. Okay, so for this, we can do is we can give up step is equals to 3. So it is now kind of taking steps by 3 and stepping down by 3. Okay, this is one thing. Now we want is that it should not so currently it is going less than 0 as well, or we can say it is going less than 3 as well. So what we want is that it should not go less than 3. The minimum it should be 3. So we use min. We can give it 3, and we can say that it should not go more than um, 12. So we can give max 12. Now here we can see is that minimum is 3 we can have. We can go beyond 3. We can get 6, 9, 12, but we can't go more than 12, and we can't go less than 3. So we have set the min and max 3. Now comes the multiple. So guys, if you remember the select box which we discussed yesterday, we have a select, and here we have option. Like we have um, we have option like student 1. Then we have option called student 2. Then we have option called student 3, and we have such type of options. Okay, student 1, student 2, student 3. So the thing is that we can select just one option as of now. But what if we want to select multiple options? Then in this we give the attribute multiple. So now this select box turns to this, and we can select like multiple options, student 1 and student 3. We can select like multiple of such options. So this is what multiple does. Okay, next is the data list. Guys, data list is something new and something really important. So what data list does is that we have an input type equals to text, and we want this input to work as a select box. So what we can do is we can just give data list. We can give it an id equals to, we can say here like browsers, and now what we can do is we can give it options, like we, and we can give it a value. So in select box we give option slash option, and we give a value between that. But here in data list we do option value, like we can say chrome. So it's a single tag. Okay, and then we can have option value safari. Let me just format this. Then we have option value Firefox, and so on. So now this text box, okay, and this this id browsers we can give here. Okay, so what we can do is we can give list equals to browsers. One second. So I guess we have defined the list browsers in the div. And here here it is. We can use, we have used it, use the text box as a select box. So this is our data list. So next is the form. We can say the form attributes. So we have a form, and here we have, so so let's suppose we give some validations to it. Okay, let's keep a button as well, a submit button. Input type equals to submit. Okay, we have a submit button, and what we do is we keep a requirement that this button is required. So now if we try to submit a button, then we get an error. Let me remove this data list. Okay, if we try to submit a button, we get error, please fill out this field. That means a required validation is now added. So now we want this, that this form should not have any validation. So we can just use the attribute no validate. Now, one second. No validate, not no validates. Now, w- so now the validation is not applied. And if we keep it, if we remove this, then we get the validation. Please fill out this field. Okay. Next is the action. In action, we define the file where the backend is. So where we want this, that the input type text by the name my text should go. Okay, so we can just give it like uh, like uh, where our backend file is. So we can give it like main back.php. So we have defined the place where our file is, and then we give it like method. Method is get or post. Get or post. So the difference between get and post is, one second. Yes, so basically the difference between get and post is that in get we, our data is kind of encrypted, and in the post our data is, sorry, in get our data is not encrypted, and in the post the data is encrypted. So if we want that our data should be sent securely, then we just make use of uh, input type, sorry, method post. Otherwise we make use of method get. To send the data in non-secure way, we use method get. So this is what get and post does. Next comes the encrypted. So if we give like encrypted multi-part form data, that means we are asking that we will be sending an image. So we use like, so if we are using up a file, input type file, and if we want to send up an image or a document like PDF, doc, PPT, or whatsoever we want to send to backend, we make use of input type file, and to encrypt it, because backend doesn't allow the the data, the image or the file what we are sending directly. It it only allows the file encrypted using multipart form data. So whenever we are sending a file or an image, we use encrypt type multipart form data. Okay, so that was all about some form attributes. So I guess that's all from my side. Please make sure to like, share and subscribe. Thank you guys. Bye.